Hi guys, welcome to my channel where we talk about everything from tech to films and all the fun stuff in between. So summer's finally hit the British shores, for the usual 5 days that is, but things have now gone back to the normal, rainy and windy. You will know this pattern for sure if you have lived in the UK. So save your cold drinks and ice lollies for another sunny spell. Grab your hot brew, sit back and relax, whilst I present to you the iPad Pro 2020 in-depth review. Just before starting, please do subscribe and support this channel so that we can keep going with all the fun and cool stuff. And for all you current viewers and subscribers, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your continued support. Alright, let's get on with the video. I knew I had to weigh this in carefully as the iPad Pro does sit in the super desirable slot and not the value for money slot. The value for money slot still goes to the iPad Air, but what can one do besides drool over the coolness which the iPad Pro brings to the table? Let me start off with that gorgeous 120Hz display, as this thing goes synonymous with the iPad Pro name. Everyone in the tech world is obsessed with it, and why not, as it offers something unique which you can only experience hands-on. No amount of cameras can do justice to this, and once you use it, anything else will feel subpar. In a way, you'll be spoiled for life, as looking at the way Apple reserves its features, this 120Hz display will always be towards the top tier. But I need to keep that desirability factor at bay and talk more about the practicality. See, whilst watching videos or using documents or even some light photo editing, you will not notice any difference. But while scrolling through things or playing resource-intensive games or doing any kind of 3D rendering or artistic designs, you will find this refresh rate enhancing your experience. So if you fall into this end of the spectrum, then you will definitely benefit with the 120Hz screen, whereas for most casual users, you can save your money and probably invest it elsewhere, maybe on the AirPods Pro or the Apple Pencil and the type cover, or probably another entry-level iPad, as all these cost somewhere in the region of the extra cash which the Pro demands. Next up is that juice under the hood. The A12Z Bionic chip with 6 gigs of RAM. I think even the operating system doesn't know the capability of its host. The 8-core ARM processor from Apple is really that kind of a serious performer. So much so that Apple is going to power whole desktop applications using that. True story, if you check the WWDC keynote, then you'd know this. They were powering and running proper desktop class applications like Microsoft Word, Final Cut Pro, and Adobe Photoshop using this processor. The graphic benchmark scores rival even that of dedicated gaming machines like PS4 and Xbox One. Added to that, you get the 120Hz refresh rate display, which even dedicated gaming machines and televisions cannot offer at the moment, making the iPad Pro a serious contender for dedicated gaming. Apple really should divert its attention towards this and make a first-hand game controller and get major studios on board so we get games like Spider-Man, Last of Us, or even Uncharted on the iPad Pro. Imagine how seriously cool that would be, and it would push the Pro into a different league altogether. Next is that USB-C port. I need to talk about this in detail here. A universal port sure opens up a lot of possibilities, and the USB-C is one of the coolest things to come into existence in the tech world. On the iPad Pro, it allows you to fast charge as well as hook up various accessories which will seriously help with productivity. I here have a simple Anchor USB-C dock which has ports for SD cards, 2 USB-B ports and a HDMI port all baked into one hub. It costs only about £20 and is from a reliable brand. I'll link it down below in the description if you wish to check that out. Now let's try using this with the USB-C port on the iPad Pro. Let's try the SD card first and see what happens. So as you can see, the SD card in, and I can see it right away in the Files app. It works perfectly fine. Next, let's try the pen drive. Again, I can see it in the Files app. No issues here whatsoever. Then that all important portable hard drive. If you check my in-depth iPad Air review video, I will link it down below. So when I tried to connect a portable hard drive, it did not work and said it requires more power. The dongle which I was using couldn't just support a portable hard drive. Let's see what happens here. I have this old portable hard drive with USB connection. Let's plug it in, and there you go. It shows up in the Files app, no problem whatsoever. It just works. And if you have one of those newer hard drives with USB Type-C connection instead of the old USB connectors, then you don't even need a dongle. You can directly plug it into the iPad and it will just work. Next, let's try the HDMI port. So I'll plug the HDMI cable in, just wait for a few seconds, and there you go, it just works. All of a sudden, your iPad Pro has transformed from a tablet into a productivity device, and you can hook up a keyboard and a mouse at the same time and use this setup for working. I've actually been using this setup to edit videos and sending emails, and it has been working great. Next, the stereo speakers. Honestly, what a difference it makes. Comparing it with the single-sided iPad Air speaker setup, the difference is like day and night. Too bad none of the lower priced iPads give you this experience, but this setup makes video watching experience so satisfying. And it's not just the presence of extra speakers on the other side, they're also of a very decent quality and give you that true stereophonic sound effect. Next, let's address the elephant in the room, that camera cluster at the back. There is a 12 million pixel wide-angle camera and a 10 million pixel ultra-wide-angle lens capable of 4K recording up to 60 frames per second with True Tone flash. Honestly, I'd never see myself using the iPad to take photos or record videos, leaving my excellent iPhone in my pocket. For scanning documents, this setup is an overkill, and for students who wish to record lectures, you can do this at 4K, which again I think is an overkill. But sure, the extra lenses are here, so you can use this if needed. Oh, I forgot to mention that you don't get the ability to take portrait pictures using the back lenses for some reason. Not sure why, but Apple reserves this feature only for selfies. Then the LiDAR scanner. Cool tech, but for most of us, yeah, you can play some AR related games and use the IKEA app to your heart's content. That's where it ends. Don't think there is anything else there to say about this for the moment. The front camera is a decent 7 million pixel true depth shooter capable of taking portrait pictures and video recording at 1080p up to 60 frames per second. This is a very decent camera, useful in FaceTime and video calls. Actually, a bit too decent camera. I was recently in a conference call with my clients and my face was the clearest amongst all of them. They even mentioned how they could see the Star Wars toys in detail in the background. So yeah, I did wish that I used the crappy VGA one on my laptop for that. A side note here, your girlfriend or a boyfriend would love it if you're FaceTiming them using this camera setup, whereas when it comes to clients, it's better to switch back to the crappy VGA one on your MacBook or your Windows laptop. Actually, by thinking about it, I think it makes sense why Apple wanted to keep that low resolution ones on their low-end iPads and even their Macbooks. Then the usual iOS goodness. The operating system really opened this device up, and with such wide variety of apps available on the App Store, any tasks which you do on your laptop can be easily done on your iPad Pro. With the trackpad and cursor support, you can make your iPad work like a laptop at the same time taking advantage of that excellent touch interface. Unlike Windows 2-in-1s, where touch controls are fiddly at best. And then features like multiple file type support, drag and drop, and multitasking only bring this device ever so close to the potential of a laptop or a MacBook. So that sums up my positive to mixed experiences with my iPad Pro. Shall we look at a few niggles now? There aren't that many, and they certainly do not ruin my experience, but to keep this video fair, let's get on with it, shall we? First is that thin form factor. The square edges do feel nicer to hold in hand, and this is the first iPad which I felt confident in hands that it wouldn't slip when holding without a case. But still, I do worry about it bending. Guess it won't be as bad as the larger 12.9 inches version, but posts on the internet still suggest that the 2020 iPad Pro model is bending. Next is the Face ID. I thought this would be cool on an iPad, but upon using it for a few weeks now, I found this less than convenient compared to the Touch ID. Don't get me wrong, it still is decent and much better than the Face ID system you get on the iPhones, as it works in more angles and in any orientation, but there are cases where I felt Touch ID was more natural and convenient on an iPad. For instance, I always pick up my iPad in landscape mode, and the thinner bezels means I always end up covering the Face ID cameras. And then when I'm using the iPad on a desk or a bed and wanting to download an app, authenticating via Touch ID was easier, as with Face ID, you need to bring your face into view of the camera system. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but Touch ID is more comfortable on an iPad. Finally, I would say the expensive first-party accessories, that Magic Keyboard case and the Apple Pencil. Adding both of them to your iPad would increase the cost substantially. In fact, it's almost the cost of an entire iPad Air. Wish Apple offered some sort of a bundle deal for this. So that's it with the negatives. The iPad Pro is truly remarkable, and Apple has added the right amount of updates to this 2020 iteration to make it feel like it's worth the extra cash which it's demanding. That 120Hz screen, extra RAM, faster processor, extra storage, and the camera system all add upfront worth and makes you feel that you're getting your money's value. However, you cannot just ignore the fact that the iPad Air does offer a lot of iPad catering for the needs of most users. But you are after the best tablet money can buy and would like to take advantage of that speed, extra storage, and the super high refresh rate screen, then it doesn't get any better than the iPad Pro. So that's it for this video, guys. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and please do subscribe to my channel to help me continue with this YouTube journey. And as always, thanks a lot for staying with me until the end. I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.